Hello. Hey, hi friends. Uh, Welcome to my channel. Now, basically, I'll be covering some interview questions, which is very important for getting a role for Azure as an DevOps engineer, as a system admin. So, it's very important to understand the basics first and some in-depth concepts of Azure. If you see my screen, there are some of the basic things that can be asked from an Azure point of view. So if you see here, first roles and responsibility is performing L3 tasks related to Azure admin. So basically, what is Azure? Azure is mostly a pay-as-you-go model. You have a pay-as-you-go model, and basically one Azure portal uh, will have a Microsoft account, okay, which you will be provided to log in into portal.azure.com, and using that Azure account, you will have two types of administrations. One is your service admin, one is your Azure account admin. That is you whatever you get when you join the company. Okay, so there are two types of administration accounts, and basically there will be a specific subscription for that account, and that subscription is where which is called as pay as you go model. So if you see here, by default you get a 12 month free subscription if you go for pay as you go model. And basically there are certain services that you get in Azure which is free of cost. And then you say there are two things, that is pay as you go for production and pay as you go for dev and test. Pay as you go as production, as the name indicates, is for the production enterprise environment. Dev and test, in case you want to use this model in your development and testing region, in your lower environments, you use this model, pay as you go model. By default, Azure provides you some credits called dollar credits, okay, and which is basically 200 per subscription, uh, like $200 per subscription credits. That means $200 credits can be spent on these services free. On top of it, whatever you use, it will be chargeable from your credit card that you use when you do a login. So these are the basic things. Okay, these are the basic things that you do. Okay, now let's see what are the L3 tasks, that is a subscription onboarding. Subscription onboarding, like you should know that inside a portal you create a new subscription for your what do you say, for your admin users, service admin users, or your Azure account users. So for your account users you create a subscription, and when you create a new subscription, you have to keep in mind for which role are you creating the subscription. Whether it is a tester, you have a different subscription. Whether it is a developer, is a different subscription. And for a admin, for a DevOps admin, for a cloud engineer, there will be a different subscription with a different RBAC access, role based access control. So these are certain tasks that you have to do. You have to create some subscriptions for those people, and then you have to manage it, okay, because that will be managed with your AD, that is on Active Directory. So these subscriptions are interlinked to your Active Directory. That is interlinked with, there's a bidirectional flow, okay, and Active Directory is managing all this you on all these admin users for those subscriptions. So that's why Active Directory has a connectivity to this subscription model. Simple. Let's understand next, migration of on-prem to cloud. This is one of the questions that they ask. How do you migrate an on-prem application to Azure cloud or any cloud platform? So basically, there is an Azure Monitor service which is used to migrate an on-premises service, on-premises infrastructure to a cloud infrastructure. You, in this monitoring service, you just have to provide which on-premises service are you want to monitor, whether it is a database that you want to migrate, or you want to migrate a specific web server, you want to migrate a specific app server. So monitor service is capable of getting the dynamics of all the on-premises data. So this is one thing, okay. And whenever monitor service is used, it will, again, there is same thing, it will tell you what is needed when you do a migration. It gives you the entire chart, like these are the steps that you need to do when you do go to migration. These are installables that you have to add when you do a migration to cloud. How do you do, whether you do it using a cloud native approach, or do you use a on cloud approach. Cloud native is like you create a program which is native to cloud, okay, like a Golang program or a Terraform program which does this migration, or you use an Ansible script to deploy all your flows or your services to your cloud, or you directly use a cloud platform, that is directly use a Azure service, okay, to your to deploy this on premises what do you say services. So basic things. Then you have to understand, very important is VM builds. What is VM? Azure VMs. Azure VM is again a service in cloud, Azure cloud, and there is an ARM template, a concept of ARM templates. I'll cover it a little bit after this time, after some time. So basically, what is it in VM build? So basically, now you have uh, Azure PowerShell inbuilt with your Azure portal. Azure CLI is also used to connect to Azure portal. You just have to give username password to the Azure portal, or you can also give some kind of what do you say tenant ID, subscription, and service principles. So there are certain different ways to connect to Azure cloud using service principle and for the specific tenant and for the specific subscription. That is also possible. So first you have to log in into Azure portal from your CLI, or directly from your Azure PowerShell. So basically, you can create any infrastructure on Azure portal using CLI or PowerShell. So how do you manage all this infrastructure is using resource group. You have to create a resource group which consists of all the services. Like if you have an application which has database, which has web server, which has load balancer, which has a gateway service. So all these things will come in one resource group. Okay, you have to manage it in one resource group. Whenever you add a service, you have to tell for which resource group you are adding, and you have to manage it. So these are resources inside resource group for a specific subscription. Now, this is how you do manually. When you go to portal, you can add it. But there is something called as ARM templates, ARM templates, which is used to do this automatically. ARM templates, as the name templates, you can just run the templates, ARM templates, to basically create the infrastructure from one subscription to another subscription. Like in one subscription, you already created the resource groups. You just have to go to the library, add to library. There's an option, add to library, where you can add the templates into a library, and then you can use that library as a kind of a repository. So that library can be used anywhere whenever you want, in whichever subscription you want to create the same infrastructure. You can move that to another subscription, take it from that library, and run it by using PowerShell commands. So simple things. ARM templates, if there is a structure of ARM templates, how it's been written, it's more of a JSON object model, and certain tags that you need to understand. I don't think you need to remember anything much there, because already whenever you export it, you already, whenever you create a resource group, already there is a what do you say, ARM template found. Okay, you have an automation script that is automatically found in the backend. You can just use it, view it, change the parameters of the resources, and manually, similar to Terraform scripting. And like how you do in Terraform scripts, you just have to change out certain parameters and just run it. So these are ARM templates. And next is your Azure Load Balancer. Azure Load Balancer comes again. It's a Azure service. It's in under a layer four of OSI model, layer four of an OSI model, and there are two types of load balancers: public and internal. Public load balancers are like it is exposed to the public internet facing, and internal means it is within the intranet. So there are two types of load balancers. Whenever you create a load balancer, you just have to select whether you want it into a public domain or into a private domain, something like that. And Azure Gateway is again, it's a similar to load balancer. There is a layer 4 of OSI model. The only difference is you have a URL based routing that is comes under layer 7. That means based on the URL, it will route. Okay, like gateway means what you will do is, if you want to route it to a specific operation, like you want to get some details of employees, so there is a route to employees. If you want to get some details of the students, you will get routed to students. Get some details of the departments, you will get routed to the departments. So there is a routing function in gateway, which you don't have it in load balancer as of now. So load balancer, there is a standard load balancers that are available. That model is already available in Azure. You also have something called as what do you say, a smart load balancer. But rather than using a smart load balancer, it is more advisable to use a application gateway which does that smartly. Then something called as VM skill sets. Scale sets, as the name include, what does it mean? That scaling, it does the scaling of VM. You create a scale set and you tell that for this VM, after a specific load, after it has if it is completing a specific threshold, scale it to to a specific level. Like there are three VMs, and those three VMs are connected to a load balancer. Say the load has exceeded, okay, and the load balancer is not able to route the data to those three VMs because your the connection is that the connection threshold has been, what do you say, there is a the connection threshold has been reached. Okay, the connections have stopped, that you cannot do any concurrency of there's no concurrency on your threads, and there is no data that is getting flowed now. So what you do is you add a VM skill set. It will tell after 3, if it is full after 3, just extend it to more 2. So more 2 VMs will be created, and then your load balancer will be able to automatically scale it and move that data to the next 2 VMs. That is how it does scale sets. And basic things like what you do in PowerShell scripting. And PowerShell scripting is a very vast topic. So you may be asked like, what is a new command, and how do you use a new command and test command? So if you see here, there is a new and a test command. In ARM templates, you will be using PowerShell scripting. If you want to just test a script, you use a test, whatever is the module name, and you test it. And if you want to do create anything in PowerShell using PowerShell on any cloud platform, you do it as a new and the module name and give the parameters. It's easy. PowerShell is very easy. So simple new test, some functions you can write using describe, and basically lot of things, lot of variables that you can define. You can import those variables in PowerShell, and it's more like you can use your conditional if loop, when loop, for loops, similar as you do it in Java and Python and Golang. So it's a similar thing. So that's how you use PowerShell scripting. Basic things can be asked on PowerShell. And There is something called as Azure Network Storage. So Azure Network, see, as you have VPC in AWS, Virtual Private Cloud. Similarly, there is an Azure Network in Azure. Inside the Azure network, you create resource groups, and inside the Azure network, you'll have the availability zones, you'll have all your security groups, you have subnets. Inside that, you'll have resource groups. Inside resource groups, you'll have all your resources being present, and this virtual network is provided a specific range of IP addresses over CIDR, and these IP addresses are being provided. The same range has been provided to those resource groups, and they can use it from that IP pool. So that is how it is. Troubleshooting means in case there is any issue in data that has been moving into one network to another server, or if you connect to a storage account in Azure, storage account in Azure, wherein you are using, say, if you use a container service in storage account, and say you are not able to communicate to it, there is a space issue in the space, the disk has gone overfilled, or there is a threshold limit that has been reached, or in case there uh, the data is like the data format has not been satisfied there. Okay, you don't pass the same data, and a lot of things you can troubleshoot by checking the logs. Okay, in Azure network logs, storage logs, okay, Azure VM log, mainly it will be using logging systems, monitoring systems on Azure, that you can monitor the logs and just understand how is the data getting flowed, and what is the issue. That is how you do troubleshooting. You can also use other devices like Datadog as an open source, and then communicate with your Azure. It's easy, so you can configure it, and then you can check all the logs and all. How you have CloudWatch in AWS, so similar. There is a similar analogy, and you have something called as Azure Key Vaults. Key Vaults, as the name suggests, Key Vaults has all your secrets, okay, basically being present in the key vaults. You can communicate to the key vaults using Azure DevOps. Okay, so you, inside your library, you add a new secret and you connect to that key vault, get the data from the key vault, because key vault has is encrypting the data, for passwords and all, everything, all the what do you say, confidential data gets stored in key vault, and you get it. You if you want to run a pipeline and all, you get that data from the key vault, use it inside your pipeline, declarative pipelines, and run it. That is why it is stored there. No one can use it. If you do a hard coding inside a property file and all, it is more prone to an attack. So rather than, you put it inside a key vault so that it is secured, and that key vault can be added into a specific resource group, and you can secure it nicely. So these are the basic things that you should know. Thanks for watching my video. Stay tuned. Please subscribe. Thank you.